Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. So last week the Spider-Man trailer came out and it was really awesome. I love Spider-Man, but there's one thing that I've noticed in one of the scenes it looked like it was made with Megascans, and if you look a little bit closer, that kind of looks like Unreal. It's probably not, but I'm going to recreate that scene in this video. And if you saw in the beginning, I just added myself just for fun because it was awesome to create that scene. Now, this video is being sponsored by you guys, my audience, and especially my Patreons. Gotta say thanks to my Patreons right here. They're all on screen right now. And if you join the Patreon, there are some goodies that you're gonna have in my Discord server. There are 2 levels. If you join at the Traveler level, then you're gonna get some goodies over there on Discord. You'll have more access to me. But if you join at the Explorer level, you also have all the benefits from the Traveler level, and you'll get a thanks from me on every single video like you're seeing right now. And you'll also get early access to my video tutorials. Now remember to follow me on Twitter, and if you can't join the Patreon, then just leaving a like and leaving a comment goes a long way. It really helps out with my videos getting out there. There's one thing I must say. I know that scene was created by very talented people and a lot of money went in it. So if anyone that created that scene is watching this video, my utmost respect for that. I'm just trying to have some fun here, and my email is in the about section, just so you know. All right, with that out of the way, let's get started on the video. All right, so here we are in the level where I actually build a whole scene. And if let me get rid of those icons, you can see the whole scene that I have here. And if we go to Sequencer, it's just 3 seconds of this train going super fast. And this canyon's something that can be built pretty fast. So I am actually going to start with this train because that's what took me a little bit longer to get. So if we go over here, you're gonna see that the train is just the top part because that's the only thing you're seeing. So I don't need to build anything else because nothing else in camera. Now the way that I build this train, and some people may recognize this train from the pack, it's in the permanent free collection called City Subway Train Modular. If you type that in the search part of the marketplace, you should be able to get it. Otherwise, just go to free, permanently free collection, and it should be there. So everyone should be able to do this with this train. So the most complex part was actually making this mesh. And the reason for that is because if we actually go into the folder for this, and by the way, I'm in Unreal Engine 5. You can do this in Unreal Engine 4 if you wanted to. If you are, however, doing this in Unreal Engine 5, you will have to migrate things. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below with a video on how I migrate things from one version of the engine to the other. So after you've done the migrating, all you have to do is go into, this one was subway train, meshes, structure. And as you can see, the train is actually broken down into several pieces. So it's pretty hard to animate it if you have all these pieces just laying around. However, if you just make it one big piece, it makes it so much easier. So in your folder, you are not going to have the train. I actually made this train by merging actors, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the subway train folder, go into maps, and go into the demonstration. I'm actually going to save this. So because this project has light building off these things, it looks like there's nothing here because you can't see the lights. So I'm just going to switch to the unlit version so we can see what's going on. Now what I did is I grabbed this whole thing. You can select each piece just by holding shift and click, and you can select them all. And I just made a copy of that train. Now, one of the things about you animating in Sequencer is it won't animate these blueprints that they have here. So some of these doors, and like for instance, this front part, as you can see on the right, they are all blueprints. So what we need is a static mesh because that's what Sequencer will allow us to animate. Now, in order to get a static mesh, all you have to do is go into the blueprint, go into edit, go into viewport, and you select what it is, and you just browse to the asset with a magnifying glass. It will take you to which asset it is, and you just substitute it with that. Now that took me a while, so all you have to do pretty much once you are done making your train, so taking the blueprints out, all you have to do is go into what I did is I went to the top so I can select the whole thing, and I right click, and there's this thing called merge actor. Now right now is getting the camera, I don't know why, but if you just get the static meshes and you can go mesh actor, and you can see that there's a merge to single static mesh actor. This will actually create a static mesh. So if you worked in 3D programs before, this is actually the same as doing attach in Blender or in 3D Studio Max, and it will create one single mesh for the purposes of Unreal, but they will still be all separate. So that means that they will keep their own materials and their own UV, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you click here, it's going to ask you to give it a name and just save it into a folder of your choosing. And that's it. That's all you have to do. It's just maybe a little bit tedious if you actually have to go clicking and selecting all of that so you can make a copy of that. I made a copy because I didn't want to ruin the train. And I also wanted to make a copy so I can figure out where all the blueprints will be and all the correct snapping coordinates and all that. So that's actually where we have 2 of them. Now with that out of the way, let's actually start building the level. Okay, I'm in this regular level, and you can get the same level by just going to new level and picking time of day. If you're in Unreal Engine 5, it will come with a volumetric clouds. I believe in 4.27 does the same thing. But anyways, just get rid of all of these stuff. Preview mesh, and I'm actually going to get rid of the volumetric clouds. You can keep your volumetric clouds if you want to. Just gonna get rid of that because I didn't see too many clouds in that shot. So after that, you're gonna keep your skylight, you're gonna have your light, and you have your atmosphere, which is this sky right here that's looking really nice. Actually, that's the sky dome mesh. Those are the clouds that you're seeing there. That actually added a little bit of clouds to the scene, but it makes it look like a really bright day, which is what I saw in the trailer. Now, once we have this, one of the things that I like to do is bring in the train just for scale purposes. So I have a merge train here already. And what I did is, like I said, because you don't need the whole train for this particular shot, you can actually create your whole train like I did this here, just fine. But with this train, what I did is I actually created these static mesh first. Then I created as many trains as I needed. And then I did the merge actor again. And now you have one single actor that you can play with in Sequencer, because otherwise you're going to have to manually animate them. And it's going to be a little bit more of a hassle. But if you want to do that, that's fine as well. All right, so I have my train here. I'm actually going to rotate it 90 degrees. There you go. Another thing that I like to do, and this is just mostly to establish the shot, is to get a mannequin. So if you don't know how to get the mannequin, just click on add feature content pack, and add the third person. That'll bring a mannequin into your project, whether you are in Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5. So I'm gonna go here to mesh, and I'm gonna put this guy right on top of the train. Gonna rotate it 90 degrees. There you go. Now let's establish the sun. If you look at the shot, you can see that there's a little bit of a shadow coming this way, so coming towards you. And let's reorient the sun so it does that. So there you go, like that. We'll probably need to move it a little bit more once we have the other meshes in there, but for now, it just looks fine. Now the other thing that you're gonna need here is the Megascans. So for that, I actually went with 2 types of Megascan, the Quarry collection and the Utah, Moab, or Desert, whatever you want to call it. You can search for it various times. Let me actually show it to you here in Quixel Bridge. You can find them either on the app or in here. If you have watched my tutorials, you know I do still have the app, even though I have this plugin inside Unreal Engine 5, just so I can look at the assets before I actually bring them into the engine. So if you go into the Quarry, you can see Limestone Quarry. This is the one you want. And these are some of the assets that I have are these right here. So all these big rocks. I don't have any of the tiny rocks because they're not going to be used. I don't have any of the surfaces, just these four. And let me see, I do have this and this one. So any of the big rocks will do. The more variation you have, the better. But I rather use the big rocks. Remember, the more you rescale a Megascan, the lower quality is going to look. So make sure you're getting the big ones. So if you want to know about the size, it's right here. Look how tiny the character is. This little dot is the character, and this is the size of the Megascan. So that's telling you how big it is. The other type of Megascan, like I said, let's look for, if you type Utah, is Canyons of Utah. Is this one right here. I used a lot, and the reason why I like this collection is because this is the biggest assets that you can find in the collection. They are, like their names say, it's massive. Look at the size of the character next to the asset. It's really big. So these are very good if you want to fill out a lot of the background first, and then you can bring in the quarry just for variations. So just download these, make sure you are in Nana, and if you're using Unreal Engine 5, add them to your project, and we can continue. Now, another tip that I'm going to give you here that's really important, especially if you have a ton of Megascans in your project already, this is something that I haven't talked about yet, is the filters here in the content browser. So if you go right here, it says add an asset filter. So you go here and you tell it what kind of asset filter would you like to have. In my case, I'm using the static meshes from the Megascans, so I'm going to check this one out. Let me put it up so you can see this is how it looks by default. So if I click on the static mesh one, you're gonna see that I now have this filter. I can turn it on and off whenever I need to. So this will show me all the static meshes that I have here. Now, if I go into Quarry, you're gonna see that it will show me the materials, and it will show me the static meshes, it will show me the textures, and it can be a bit of a pain to look through the whole thing. So I just click here and it will only show me the static meshes, and it's just so much easier to look for things. So I can go and look for the massive ones as well, and I also downloaded the huge collection as well, as you can see over here. All right, let's start building, and I'm gonna start with the massive. So I'm just going to put some here. Now, one of the things I like to do, usually if you have watched my beginner tutorials for filmmaking, is to establish the shot. I just want to put something in the background so I have something to kind of get the feeling of what I'm looking at first. And I think I can build a base with just these three. So as you can see, these are pretty big by themselves, so you don't even have to rescale them, which is very good. Now I'm going to throw in a cinema camera actor over here. There you go. Rotate it 180. And I'm going to roughly position it kind of like what I saw in the picture. So let's see. Also going to change some settings here. So here in the manual focus distance, I'm just going to type 800. And over here, I believe I have it in 25. Aperture 2. And these are just options for the depth of field. You can change these options if you wanted to. But I did have a focal length of 25, and that kind of tells you where you're going to have your camera. So the character was not, as far as I saw in the trailer, it may change once the movie comes out, but I saw it was a little bit behind. So it wasn't in the front of the train, it was a little bit back. So we're going to push it back, and we're going to push the camera back as well. Okay. So the picture that I managed to take of Doctor Strange, he is kind of like in the center-ish. So we're gonna have, actually, let's just go into the camera. So perspective, click on your camera. Now we can see it here, and we can just use the transforms over here just to move the camera to where we want. I think it was around here. This lets me know that we need to change the shadows a little bit. and it was like this, because you could see the train going like this. So the train was not oblique as far as I know. It was going front. It was just how the camera was positioned, and maybe it was rotated a little bit. And when it comes to rotation, I'm going to take this off so I can do this. There you go. He wasn't like in the dead center, but kind of in the center-ish. All right, so we have our shot. Now what we need to do is start building our level. This is going to take a little bit, so I'm just going to time lapse it. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, now we kind of have a canyon. I know this looks like doo-doo right now, but it will improve the more we have. Now, what I'm doing is I'm kind of blocking out the canyon with this asset. So this actually looks very weird here. I'm going to take it out. But we have a nice canyon going on over here. We will need more assets to cover the ground. And probably we need to bring these assets inwards. So like I said, if you don't see the gizmo, you can always use this transforms to your right. I know the gizmo is the most important thing, but you can always do this one. All right, that actually looks pretty cool, and we don't have to fill in the ground that much. That being said, this is too low. We need to fill up this line right here with other assets. So we have these one right here, and this one. I also have other assets in the huge and aquatic collection, but I'm just gonna start throwing this one, which is one of the biggest ones. And this one's really gonna help me break out the repetition that we already have here. So again, you can go crazy with these assets. And again, these are just to kind of help with the skyline around these parts. Because if you see, it was just a little bit of the sky that you could see with that. And we'll add more variation when we put in others. And this is the beauty of Nanite. We can just keep adding meshes. Nothing's gonna happen. No, we won't have any performance hits. So I'm just going to search for huge, which are these. I forgot which one this was. It's actually pretty tiny. So, all right, now that we are at this level, one of the things that we can do is we can move our directional light. So I'm just going to bring this over here, change the camera speed, and we can move the directional light a little bit forward like that. a little bit downward, or a little bit like this. So we sort of get the same shadow that we were getting before. Now I think we are good. Over here we have a nice skyline breakup. We got a nice canyon, but we need to break that repetition that we have here. So for that, we're going to look for the quarry meshes. And the quarry meshes are kind of dark for this setting. So this is one, let me see, this is one that I like to use here. And you can see it's kind of small. These are not the biggest ones, so we will need to rescale them. But if we go into the material, you're gonna see that I made some changes. So usually it looks like this. That's pretty much too dark to be melded with what we have right now. So what I'm gonna do is you can click on the albedo tint, look for something kind of reddish over here, around here, click OK. Now the most important value from the albedo controls that allows you to achieve some look closer to this is the brightness. So this is usually like this. I'm just going to turn it to 3. As you can see, that instantly changed. Now I just need to position it where it should be so it receives sun, and you can see how it changes. Now the color is not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. So let's just rescale this one. It's a little bit big, but I think this will do. Probably just leave it at 4. That should be fine. Maybe need to adjust the color to something not as orange. There you go, excellent. I think that's spot on the color. These are the values. If you wish to copy them, there you go. So you can screenshot them. And we just throw in this one right here. And again, it's just to introduce a little bit of breakup. All right, that helped us breaking up this little repetition that we had over here. And for this one, I think we need to make some changes to contrast. Let's see, 0.7, 0.8, saturation. Let's see, 0.9. Okay, maybe not as red. There you go. I think that's awesome. May have to change this one as well, just so we're not trying to match, because when you got these types of quarry from some reference images that I got, they're usually not the same type of rock, but kind of the same type of rock. So it's hard to tell. So let's see. Again, we're not trying to match the exact color. We're just trying to make sure that it fits in the world that we have. There you go. Maybe 2 is okay. We don't have to make it as big. Okay, now we can use this tiny mesh just to fill out so it's not like this all the time, and there's a little bit of a gap here that we need to fill. So let's make it 5 times as big. There you go, it helps us out this way. Can rotate it, and it helps us out this way. Like that. Let's see on the other side. Creating a bit of a breakup. There you go. That's the beauty of the camera shot. All right, so I think we have a good enough shot. Now we don't have an exposure setup right now, because if we go up like this, the exposure is going to change, and if we go down like this, again, the exposure changes. So to prevent that from happening, we're going to add a post-processing volume over here, gonna match this exposure that we have in this particular place. So if the camera's here, this is the exposure that I kind of want to have, because it's very similar to the shot from the trailer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the post-processing effect. We're gonna look for exposure here, metering mode, compensation. We're going to bring all of these to 1, and right now nothing is happening because it's not unbound, so we have to make it infinite like that, and now it's super dark. So there's 2 things that we could do. We could either crank up the light in here to 3 or 15. Okay, I think 25 is fine. And then we can play with the exposure, compensation, like this, and we bring it to what it was before. So exposure compensation of 2 will define, and now that I see that these meshes are too orange again, it's all part of the process to discover what kind of look do we want to have with these meshes. So let's see, 0.3, like that, maybe like this. There you go. I think that's way closer to what we need them to be. Probably with these ones as well. Okay. All right, so we have our nice canyon right here. Now the other thing that we need to do is we need to animate our camera to see what happens. So for that, we're going to create a sequence. I'm gonna create a level sequence. I'm gonna call it Doctor Strange tutorial. If I can spell Doctor Strange. And there we have it, our sequence. I'm going to throw in my camera over here. And what we need to do is this needs to be 24 frames per second if we want to make it cinematic. And let's see, I'm just gonna make a couple of seconds, because again, this is for demonstration purposes after all. So we're going to do, let's say around here, 96. So our camera is going to go from here to here. So we create a transformation part here. And let's see how far we're going to take that. Now, the thing about it is that once we pull our camera back, we're going to start seeing ground. And we do not want that to happen. So the way that we can solve that a little bit is by expanding this canyon. The way we're going to expand this canyon is by selecting all these meshes. And we're just going to create a bigger canyon. By the way, to select things, just hold the key of Shift and click. That will add to the selection. Now, if you notice, we have selected all the way down to this point and to this point. We have not selected the ones in the back because we just want to expand the canyon. So I'm going to hold the key of Alt and drag it. And again, there will be some changes that we need to make here, but this is just to make our lives a lot easier. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about the back facing because the camera is gonna be facing this way all the time. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to select my camera and I'm going to animate it all the way down there before I keep manipulating my assets, because some assets may be in the way, some may not. It's just easier to decide afterwards. So I'm just going to drag my cursor all the way down here and I'm going to drag this over here. Make sure that when you're doing things like this, you have this set key over here, turn on, otherwise it's not going to happen automatically. So I'm just going to pull it, let's say, I think here should be the end. Let's see if that's fast enough. Switch to camera, click, and yeah, that's plenty fast. Okay, so let's see, we go here, and this may be a little bit too close to the train. So again, this is what we're gonna decide once we are at this level. And there you go. Okay, so I think we have it good. Now for the train, I'm going to do the same thing and just bring it in here and animate it. We're going to throw it in here. We're going to pull our camera over here. Whoops, have to establish the first transformation. Pull the camera all the way down here, then select our train. And we're gonna bring it down all the way. I'm probably gonna bring it down a little bit longer than the camera, so it was like around here, I think. And let's see how that looks. Okay, it's gonna leave the mannequin behind. And train is going awesome. Now, what's doing right now, the camera and train are doing an ease in and ease out. We want to remove that because this is a linear animation. So select both of your dots here, right click and make it linear. Select these ones as well, make it linear. Make sure they're both linear here in the curve section. So in here in the transformations, I can see that there is no actual curve. It's just a straight line. Same thing with the camera actor. As you can see, it's a complete straight line. So this will be very good looking. Okay, this will help out with the motion blur. Okay, I think we have finished building the base of our level. And remember, the skylight needs to be immovable if you want do real-time capture. Another thing that I added to make it look a little bit more cinematic was some exponential fog, but it's going to be something subtle. Right now it's really harsh, and I think I'm just going to reduce the density a little bit. This is just to give it a bit of a cinematic touch. So let's see, 0.01. Play with the fall off a little bit, and we're going to change this color over here. Get more towards the reds. There you go. Okay, we have volumetric fog on as well. And I'm not going to be changing anything else. This is just to give it that kind of a cinematic look that you usually get from, you know, having a bit of fog in there. The other thing that I did is mind the depth of field of your camera. So if I go to Sequencer, click on my camera, remember we had a current focal length of 25. Let's see our debug where it is. I'm actually going to make it smaller, kind of like around here. This is where I'm going to be standing. So let's make it 600. Everything else behind it, and let's do 1.8. So everything else behind it will be a little bit more blurred out. Get out of there. And another thing, if you want to add some, and this is depending on whether you want to do some post-processing later or not, we could search for motion blur amount, and let's just type 0.45. I think that's the amount of motion blur that I had. And let's see, what else do we add? I think I messed with the bloom, so we can have some nice reflections here. Let me go to the JJ filter, lens flare intensity. There you go, very small vignette. I do want vignette here. Grain intensity 0.1, or if you want, you can add grain later. Depth of field we're not going to change because we have depth of field already with our camera. Color grading, you could do color grading here. The scene that you saw in the beginning, I color graded in After Effects because I just have more options for color grading than I do over there. But if you want, you can color grade right here. It's actually, they have plenty of things to use. So that's how I build the scene. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to embellish it a little bit more. So I'm just going to move some assets around, kind of break up the repetition that you see right here, go back and forth. I'm going to time lapse it enough so that it's not real time, but not so much that it's going to make you vomit like a lot of time lapses that I see out there. So if you want, stick for that. And if you're going out, remember, there's a Patreon. There's some goodies for you if you join the Patreon. There's the Discord. Follow me there. Follow me on Twitter. Leave a like, and I'll see you in the next video. Now, if you stayed, let's keep going with the building.